Myriad Serpent Valley was filled with lush greenery and overgrown weeds, with numerous water puddles scattered around. The sunken terrain made the climate humid, causing water to stagnate and creating a paradise for mosquitoes, snakes, and ants. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth often gathered here, leading to the birth of some spiritual herbs. The most famous of these was the serpent fruit deep within the valley. Zuhai dove into a puddle and swam towards the depths of Myriad Serpent Valley. Before long, he reached the end of the valley. The soil here was soft and moist, devoid of any weeds, with all the nutrients absorbed by a single tree growing on a high slope. The tree wasn't large, about the height of a person, and bore 3 pitch-black fruits. Serpent fruit. Zuhai's eyes burned as he stared at the fruits on the tree. As the name suggests, serpent fruit had a great allure for snakes. Consuming it could enhance one's physique and even provide a chance to transform into a snake demon. In the past, Zuhai had consumed a serpent fruit, which turned him into the fearsome old snake king. Serpent fruit matured once every 3 years. By his calculations, this year was the season for its maturation again. Back then, Zuhai didn't know the use of the serpent fruit and had consumed it purely on instinct. After gaining human knowledge, he understood the true value of the serpent fruit. It could be consumed directly or used in peel refining, making it extremely valuable. The reason Myriad Serpent Valley could gather so many snakes, aside from the breeding season, was largely due to the serpent fruit. 3 years ago, I only consumed 1 serpent fruit. If I swallow all 3 this time, I wonder if I can break through to the mid-stage of spirit communion. Zuhai thought to himself. Reaching the mid-stage of spirit communion would allow him to cast some spells, no longer relying solely on physical combat. It would be a qualitative leap. Before the serpent fruit fully matured, it wouldn't emit any fragrance, and its energy would be very mixed. Only after maturation would its medicinal effects be perfect, releasing a strong scent to lure snakes into consuming it. According to Zuhai's estimation, the maturation time was in the next few days. Don't get too excited yet. Let's check if there's any danger nearby. Zuhai left the fruit tree and submerged into the swamp, spreading his divine sense to observe his surroundings. Myriad Serpent Valley wasn't very large. Zuhai spent an hour wandering around and found no danger. Occasionally, a few eagles would circle in the sky, preying on snakes. The valley was filled with snakes and insects, attracting some natural predators, which was normal. These eagles posed no threat to Zuhai as long as they weren't demonic beasts. Zuhai couldn't be bothered with them. However, Zuhai had a nagging feeling that a place where such spiritual medicine grew must be guarded by a demonic beast. Zuhai suddenly realized, wasn't he a demonic beast himself? After resting for a while, he planned to continue exploring the perimeter. At this moment, a female white snake slithered towards him. The white snake was about a meter long, similar in appearance to him but with a different color. It seemed to be attracted by Zuhai's scent. Zuhai had no interest in such wild beasts now. Cultivation required preserving one's essence and energy. Unless the other party was a powerful snake demon that could aid his cultivation, Zuhai wouldn't consider it. Zuhai was about to leave. Suddenly, he felt that the white snake in front of him seemed familiar, both in aura and appearance. The white snake stopped about 10 meters away from Zuhai, lying on the ground quietly watching him without moving. Her gaze was calm and she made no sound, indicating no hostility. I remember now, she's an old friend. Every time I come back, She always finds me. Zhu Hai thought to himself. This white snake had memorized his scent and could find him whenever he returned. Usually, males pursued females, but this white snake was the opposite. Zhu Hai thought of seeing among humans and couldn't help but sigh. You and I are separated by the realms of immortals and mortals. Let's part ways here. He made a rustling sound and turned to leave. Unfortunately, he didn't have a forgetting dust peel. Otherwise, he could have given her one. Of course, it was more likely that Zhu Hai was being sentimental. Snakes had no emotions. Even if they were demonic beasts with some intelligence, instincts still dominated. Not everyone was like Zhu Hai. After Zhu Hai left, the white snake followed for a while before he suddenly sped up, leaving her far behind and disappearing from sight. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed, and the day of the serpent fruit's maturation arrived. Outside Myriad Serpent Valley, two figures, one in front and one behind, arrived simultaneously. The two stood on a tree, emitting a strong scent of reagar. The nearby snakes, upon smelling it, quickly retreated, hating the smell. The two were a man and a woman, dressed in dark green python robes and red Taoist robes, respectively. If Zhu Hai were here, he would recognize the handsome young man as Zhao Wenxiu, and the woman in the red Taoist robe beside him was his senior sister, Sang Xiu. Senior sister Sang. This is the Myriad Serpent Valley that senior brother Ding and I discovered. The spirit serpent fruit is inside. Zhao Wenxiu pointed to the valley, bowing and scraping with a fawning expression. You've done well. Sang Xiu nodded in satisfaction. She had already found the incident that day suspicious. Ding Hai gathering so many villagers was clearly searching for something, so she investigated secretly. Just as she found some clues, Zhao Wenxiu couldn't wait to spill everything. He even detailed how Ding Hai had provoked the bear demon, causing the villagers' deaths. As for other matters, she didn't ask further. Senior sister, I won't take advantage of you. How about we split the spirit serpent fruit equally? Sang Xiu said calmly. Zhao Wenxiu was instantly overjoyed, cupping his fists and bowing. Thank you, senior sister. However, senior sister, any spiritual medicine is usually guarded by a demonic beast. We must be cautious, Zhao Wenxiu added solemnly. Sang Xiu nodded slightly, sneering, don't worry. Senior sister is well prepared. The only snake demon in this area is the old snake king. If it dares to show up, we'll use its gallbladder for medicine. Zhao Wenxiu burst into laughter. Haha, what a coincidence. I've also made ample preparations to deal with the old snake king. After speaking, Zhao Wenxiu took out a snake-shaped flute and showed it off. Sang Xiu smiled knowingly and said no more. She took out a piece of yellowish clay and smeared it on herself. This was reagar powder made by snake catchers, capable of repelling snakes and insects. Snakes would automatically avoid the scent from afar, and it had some effect on snake demons as well. Zhao Wenxiu did the same. After finishing, the two entered Myriad Serpent Valley, one after the other. That day, Zhu Hai was lying on a large rock practicing his breathing exercise. The white snake lay not far away, watching him all the while. Except during hunting periods, the white snake would leave for a moment. Most of the time, she stayed with Zhu Hai. Zhu Hai didn't stop her. After all, she was half an acquaintance. Once he consumed the serpent fruit, he would leave. At that moment, the white snake, which had been motionless, seemed to catch a scent, flicked its tail and quickly fled. Zhu Hai was stunned. At the same time, rustling sounds came from the distant grass, and all the snakes were retreating in the same direction. What's going on? Zhu Hai wondered. The next second, he smelled a nauseating stench that almost made him vomit. What the hell is this smell? Zhu Hai couldn't describe the odor. In human terms, it was like a mix of rotten eggs, feces and urine unbearably foul. 1 whiff made you retch, 2 whiffs made you vomit, and 3 whiffs made you faint. Though it sounded exaggerated, Zhu Hai could barely control his body from wanting to crawl away. Who could stand this? However, his rationality overcame his instinctive reaction. When something unusual happens, there must be a reason. Zhu Hai held his breath, enduring the stench, and craned his neck to look ahead. He saw a man and a woman walking through the wetland, heading deeper into the valley. As they walked, they scattered yellow powder, causing the snakes and insects to retreat. It was realgar powder, which snakes extremely feared. Some small snakes that didn't escape in time were knocked out by the fumes, and some were even poisoned to death. Damn snake catchers again. Zhu Hai recognized them at a glance. He didn't know the female cultivator, but the man was Zhao Wenxiu. Zhu Hai had witnessed Zhao Wenxiu's cunning, ruthlessly attacking his own people without hesitation. Judging by their attitudes, Zhao Wenxiu seemed to be currying favor with the female cultivator. These two must be here for the serpent fruit. Zhu Hai noted that their direction was towards the serpent fruit's location. Besides being consumed, the serpent fruit could also be used in peel refining, benefiting human cultivation. It was a rare and precious herb. Previously, Zhu Hai might have feared the snake catchers and fled, but now he had some confidence. He was already at the peak of the third layer of the spirit communion stage, on the verge of the mid stage. In terms of cultivation, he was not weaker than them. Snake catchers weren't invincible. Both the octopus and the bear demon had easily killed the snake catchers. Zhu Hai was much stronger than those two. Zhu Hai pondered for a moment, then stealthily followed them underwater. His small size, still only 2 meters long after a year, was unlike ordinary snake demons, making it easier for him to hide. Zhu Hai didn't act immediately. He wanted to follow and see what would happen. What if these two suddenly turned on each other? That was a common human tradition. Senior sister Song, what if the old Snake King doesn't show up? Zhao Wenxiu asked with a smile. Song Xiu glanced at him and smiled. The old Snake King has lived for over a decade and is nearing the end of its lifespan. This spirit serpent fruit is crucial for it. If it doesn't consume it, it will age and die. It has to show up. Zhu Hai was taken aback by their conversation. He had lived for over a decade. How come he didn't know that? Zhu Hai couldn't remember exactly how long he had lived, but he distinctly remembered consuming the serpent fruit 3 years ago. The serpent fruit matured every 3 years, and he was sure he hadn't forgotten that. It was only in these 3 years that he had frequently eaten humans, earning him the title of Old Snake King. But according to this woman, he had lived for over a decade. Judging by Zhao Wenxiu's expression, he didn't find it strange and even nodded in realization. This left Zhu Hai utterly confused. Am I really that old?